Please subscribe to Urban Monkness channel. Hello friends, welcome to the channel. Over the last few weeks, a shadow war has burst into the light. This isn't a war fought just with soldiers, but with spies, cyber weapons, and secret agents. The conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran has become the biggest story on the planet. But the headlines are missing the real story. The covert operations and shocking escalations that lit the fuse on this global crisis. It's a story with all the makings of a thriller. This is how a fragile peace, built on deterrence and proxy warfare, was shattered in a single night, pushing us all to the brink. Today, we're breaking down the secret intelligence failures and daring missions that triggered the 20th US-Israel-Iran war. The first domino fell on February 28, 2026. While the world was watching what seemed to be fragile negotiations, the US and Israel launched a coordinated and devastating series of airstrikes against Iran. The operation, codenamed Epic Fury, was a watershed moment that completely upended the regional security order. In a move that stunned the world, President Trump announced the strikes not in a formal address, but in an 8-minute video posted on social media, putting allies and enemies on notice at the exact same time. The goals were brutally clear: destroy Iran's missile arsenal, annihilate its navy, cripple its proxy networks, and guarantee once and for all that Iran could never get a nuclear weapon. From a purely military standpoint, the results were staggering. In the opening hours, Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed in a targeted strike. Over the next few weeks, more than 12,300 targets were hit across Iran. The Iranian Navy was essentially wiped out as a conventional force, with its major ships eliminated before they could even leave port. One of its frigates, the IRN Dana, was sunk by a US submarine off the coast of Sri Lanka on March 4th. The strikes weren't just limited to military sites. They hit facilities like the Daru Paksh Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Company and the Pasteur Institute, which the Japanese government had previously linked to Iran's chemical and biological weapons programs. Even steel factories, vital for both military hardware and the wider economy, were turned to rubble. But this was never going to be a one-sided fight. Iran fired back immediately. It couldn't win a conventional war, so it fell back on its trusted strategy of asymmetric warfare, a strategy designed to inflict the most economic pain possible. And it worked with terrifying speed. Think of the global economy as a circulatory system. If that's the case, the Strait of Hormuz is the main artery. About 20% of the world's oil flows through this single, narrow waterway. After Operation Epic Fury, Iran moved to shut it down. The International Energy Agency didn't mince words, calling it the greatest global energy security challenge in history and the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. The impact was immediate and catastrophic. With almost 20 million barrels of oil per day suddenly taken off the market, prices went through the roof. Brent crude, which was trading at around $60 a barrel in early 2026, shot past $120. At one point, it was just a whisper away from $150 a barrel. This wasn't just a number on a screen. The closure stranded massive LNG exports from Qatar, forcing the nation to declare force majeure, basically an act of God clause on all its shipments. It sent European gas prices doubling, threatening a second energy crisis on the continent, just as it was getting over the last one. It triggered panic buying of gasoline around the world and forced countries as far away as the Philippines into a state of emergency. Iran didn't stop at a blockade. It began actively targeting the energy infrastructure of its Gulf rivals. Drone and missile strikes rained down on refineries in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. In Kuwait, the key Mina al-Ahmadi refinery was hit, with drones setting off fires across multiple units. Even a Kuwaiti power and water plant was struck. For the Sunni Arab states, this was their worst nightmare coming true. A war they had quietly supported against Iran was now burning down their own house. The message from Tehran was simple. If we're going down, we're taking the region's energy economy with us. This wasn't just a three-player game for long. The conflict quickly sucked in everyone around it, igniting old tensions and pulling in a whole web of proxy forces. Israel saw the war as a golden opportunity to dismantle the Shiite Crescent, Iran's network of allied militias across the region, and secure its own dominance. In Lebanon, Israeli operations escalated dramatically, with strikes on thousands of targets linked to the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah. The Israeli military made it clear it would act decisively to remove the threat Hezbollah posed to its people. This front of the war was all about crippling one of Iran's most powerful and dangerous proxies. At the same time, the war has created some strange bedfellows. The shared threat from Iran has pushed Israel and Sunni states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE closer together in a pragmatic alliance. But it's come at a steep price. Those same Sunni states are getting hammered with direct attacks on their economic lifelines. The UAE's air defenses have been working overtime, shooting down dozens of Iranian missiles and drones, while fires have shut down operations at key facilities in Abu Dhabi. The United States has poured resources into the fight, deploying an additional 10,000 troops and multiple carrier groups. But American losses have started to add up. The US military has lost at least 16 of its advanced MQ-9 Reaper drones, each one costing over $30 million. And as of early March, 6 US service members had been killed in action. As the war bled into its second month, the strikes got even more audacious. On April 2nd, US forces hit the B-1 bridge, a huge, nearly finished piece of infrastructure meant to connect Tehran with the city of Karaj. US officials claimed the bridge was being used to move missiles. Confirming the strike, President Trump posted a video of the bridge's destruction on social media with a chilling warning. Much more to follow. The endgame, ceasefire talks and a murky future. After more than a month of brutal conflict, the conversation is shifting toward a fragile and deeply uncertain endgame. In late March, President Trump started talking about negotiations, claiming that Iran wants to make a deal so badly. He's floated a 2 to 3 week timeline for winding down the heaviest strikes, while in direct talks, reportedly with Pakistan acting as a mediator, are ongoing. But the signals from both sides are a mess of contradictions and threats. On one hand, Trump is extending deadlines for talks. On the other, he's vowed to hit Iran's power plants and bomb the country back to the Stone Ages if a deal doesn't happen. Meanwhile, Iranian officials have publicly denied that any direct talks are even taking place, dismissing Trump's comments as an attempt to play the financial markets. And Iran has its own non-negotiable demands, including the lifting of all sanctions and reparations for the damage from the strikes. The Strait of Hormuz is still the main sticking point. While there are reports that Iran has allowed a few non-hostile ships to pass, the waterway is still a highly controlled and dangerous choke point. More than 40 nations, brought together by the UK, have met to discuss forming a coalition to reopen the strait by force, but only if a ceasefire is in place first. This leaves the entire global economy in a state of suspended animation, held hostage by these tense back-channel negotiations. This war has already reshaped the Middle East. It sped up a realignment of power, with Sunni states moving toward Israel out of a shared fear of Iran. It may have created a power vacuum in Syria, with the fall of the Assad regime, and weakened Iran's grip on Iraq. But the cost has been enormous. The global economy is teetering on the edge, facing what S&P Global has called the largest energy supply shock on record. Central banks, who thought they had inflation under control, are now scrambling. And inside Iran, the risk of a complete state failure, which could lead to civil war and a massive refugee crisis, is terrifyingly real. There's a reason this conflict is the single biggest story on YouTube and across the globe. It's a story of secret ops, high-stakes military gambles, and economic warfare that touches every one of us. From the price we pay for gas to the stability of the entire world order. The 12-day war has spiraled into a month-long crisis with no clear end in sight. What happens in the next few weeks? Whether these fragile talks lead to a real breakthrough or collapse into even more violence will define the geopolitical map for years to come. The stakes couldn't possibly be higher. Will President Trump get a deal that stops a nuclear Iran, or will the region be thrown back into a wider, even more devastating war? If you want to stay on top of this story as it develops, and understand the deep geopolitical forces at play, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. We'll be tracking every move, from the secret talks to the latest action in the Strait of Hormuz. Thanks for watching. Please not forget to like and share this video and subscribe to my channel. See you in next video. Bye bye.